I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is Our Nerdiest Thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today, we are continuing our discussion of House of Flame and Shadow, the third book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. We are talking about chapters 24 through 35. Reminder, this is a very spoiler-heavy podcast across all of Sarah J. Maas's books and series. So, listen at your own risk.
I was getting kind of turned on, and then you did that horror voice.
I was trying to be sexy.
I got more monster under the bed.
Sometimes that can be sexy too.
Have you seen the Stuart Mackey video where he's like, you've been reading too much dark romance, and he's like, he comes in as a masked intruder, and she's like,
I did not see that one. Oh, man. Deb, will you please tell us all about our nerdiest cocktail?
Of course I will. Tonight's drink is named Ruhn's Joyous Tears, which Whitney came up with this, and how fucking dare you?
It's Joyous Tears.
I know, but that tore me up.
Well, it was either going to be that or like Ruhn's tiny baby hand.
Like on Deadpool?
Yes. But I thought that was too morbid.
That's fucking hilarious. Okay, so tonight's drink is called Ruhn's Baby Hand. It's called Ruhn's Joyous Tears. And look, it's even blue. I love it.
Very summery.
So it's themed after hearing the voice of your BFF. And this drink pairs well with badass sprites, slaying Anasteri, and reunions with crappy dads. And it may cause you to hesitate too long to say, Lydia.
That's how I heard it when I read it.
It's a really good summer cocktail.
It is, yeah.
It's light and airy and makes you feel all warm and happy inside.
Yeah, it's good. And the recipe calls for rum, but we were just talking out there. You could put vodka, flavored vodka. Like, you could mix out a different
I recommend
clear
the rum
spirit.
for summer.
It was good, yeah.
Yeah, rum
works.
is a summer spirit.
It is. It was very excellent. I highly recommend it. Mindy, it's time to share The Wheel Has Spoken
The wheel
for our
has
30-second
spoken.
recap. Whose turn is it?
The lucky winner is Deb.
It's Deb.
But I already had to talk about a cocktail. I think you should go. Just go.
No.
Okay, is my timer ready?
Ready and go.
Bryce, Nesta, and Azrael speak with the Asteri female from the crystal sarcophagus, and then they flat out kill the bitch. Bryce can suddenly create lasers and a portal to go home, but shit, she lands at the Autumn King's house. Ada shows up in the dungeon and tells Hunt that Regulus stole his lightning to resurrect someone, and that the Asteri plan to kill Ruhn first. Ethan visits the House of Shadow and Flame to find a necromancer. The Autumn King has some sort of light contraption that he uses with the swords, and he wants to use Bryce's power to presumably kill the Asteri. The Hawk arrives to take Hunt, Ruhn, and Baxian to Regulus, but the Hind shows up and shoots Hawk right between the fucking eyes.
Yeah, she does.
And then the rest is about them escaping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah.
I really thought I had it down that time. You all, 30 seconds is not very long.
Fast.
It's not very long.
It goes really fast. Every time I have to do the recap, it reminds me of the time when I was in high school. I had to give a book report, and we had like a 10-minute time limit or something like that, but the teacher said you have to watch the clock. I'm not gonna like give you a signal or anything, and they let me stand up there and talk for like 25 minutes, and
I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I'm not.
I know, right? I had no idea, and I got like a lot of points taken off that because I didn't stay within the time constraints or whatever, and I was like, all my friends, I was like, none of you signaled me that I was standing up there for twice the time. But
she's never seen your From Blood and Ash PowerPoint.
She would probably be really proud of that.
I know, but we asked you to speak for 30 minutes and you spoke for 2 hours.
Actually, I don't think anyone asked me to speak at all. I was like, this is happening.
By the way, I made a fucking PowerPoint.
You guys were just nice enough to let me do it.
I actually thoroughly enjoyed it until you got food poisoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
It was harder for you than it was for us.
Yeah, it was. Well, Mindy, anyway, will you please share about our nerdiest vocabulary?
Of course I will.
I'm excited about this.
Yes. So really, there wasn't a ton to pull from, but I did, that she mentions Enalius. Enalius?
I know. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I keep hearing Enalius.
Enalius.
I keep wanting to say Enalius.
Enalius.
I'm going with Enalius. Let's do it.
No, I think I'm going to say Enalius.
Sure.
But it does sound like an alias, but whatever. Anyways.
An alias.
Dun, 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 dun.
Maybe
Conspiracy.
That's a clue.
No, I'm thinking Jennifer Garner.
Yeah, I was too. So he was the first Illyrian warrior, and I think Whitney's going to tell us a little bit more about where we find out about him. But in true SJM fashion, this name is definitely on purpose, right? So
it always is.
It always is. In Greek mythology, there is and I don't know how to say this either, but it looks like Enalius or Enalius. It's got a Y in it, and between the N and the A. And he was, depending on what text you look at, either by name of Ares himself, who is, of course, the Greek god of war, or his son, who is often seen as the god of soldiers and warriors.
Ooh.
Super,
Okay, well, I'm excited
right?
because I don't remember who the fuck this person is.
Well, I think Whitney's going to enlighten us a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I actually did my deep dive on this because Vesperus, in the beginning, basically, of that fight scene, when she comes out of the coffin, she's trying to tell Bryce and Azrael and Nesta what to do because she...
Did you notice that she crawled out like a spider?
Yes.
That freaked me the fuck out.
How gross is that,
Yeah.
right? She is an Asteri, and when she went into the coffin, she was in charge of all Fae and humans. So she sees an Illyrian, a Fae, and a half human, and is like, you are my slaves, right? So she's telling them what to do, all this stuff. She gives us actually a lot of information if you have read A Court of Silver Flames. So she mentions Enalius. I don't know. That's how I'm going to say it.
Enalius.
So this was an aha moment for Azrael. Azrael has a little bit of a reaction here, but since we're getting Bryce's POV, she doesn't really go in depth to Azrael's reaction, just that he has one, right? So he clearly has a response to hearing that name, and I did too because I remembered it from A Court of Silver Flames. So I went into A Court of Silver Flames much like I did last week and probably the week before and probably like I'm going to do next week too.
And the 8 other weeks after that.
Yeah, for the rest of this book. And I kind of gathered all the information that we have about this Illyrian warrior. So like you said, Mindy, Enalius is a great and revered Illyrian warrior in Illyrian history. When Nesta, Gwen, and Emery are forced to participate in the rite, Emery gives a history of Enalius as they are sitting at the Pass of Enalius, which is a part of the breaking path up the mountain of Ramiel. You have to get to the top of Ramiel to finish the rite. The breaking is the most difficult path to get up the mountain. The Pass of Enalius is basically like a rock formation on the way up the mountain.
That's usually what I tell my husband he's not allowed to go past.
So it's called the Pass of Enalius because Enalius is believed to have held off the Daglan army to help the Fae win in the war against them 15,000 years ago in Prythian. So, reminder, the Daglan are the Asteri. They are the same group of people, right? So Enalius died during this standoff at this location, and the rite of the Illyrian warriors is to honor him specifically and his sacrifice.
Oh, okay.
Which is why...
He's kind of a big deal.
He is a huge deal, which is why the breaking includes the Pass of Enalius going up the mountain. He went to the top of the mountain, and I'm going to talk more about that in a second. That's why the mountain is part of the rite, is because that's what happened to him. Later on in A Court of Silver Flames, we see Emery's crappy cousin Bellius, who tries to kill Nesta, and while they're fighting, he gives a little bit more information about Enalius. So he says that Enalius defended the pass, that part of the mountain, for 3 days and drew a literal line in the ground to defend and not allow any Asteri forces to go past that line, which Nesta also coincidentally does. She doesn't know that about Enalius, but she draws a line in the sand, and Bellius makes a comment like, that's what he did too.
Wait, he called them Asteri?
No, I'm just calling them Asteri.
Okay.
I'm calling them Asteri because that's what they were. Okay. But they are called Daglan in all the court books. So Bellius says that Enalius climbed with his guts hanging out to the sacred stone at the top of Ramiel and died there.
Yikes.
So
I I hate it when that happens.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So the pass of Enalius is the setting for these really important scenes in A Court of Silver Flames. We've got the fight between Nesta and Bellius, which leads into the scene between Nesta, Cassian, and Bryolin, the human queen, where Nesta ends up actually unmaking Bryolin and completely destroying her. Like, she explodes and turns into like a pile of black ashes.
I really got to read this book.
You
I know,
really do.
I've only
Yeah.
read it once.
Completely forgot about that part.
So remember, Bryolin had the crown, which when you wear the crown, if you can get close enough physically to somebody, you can control what they do. They have to do what you say. And so Bryolin had tricked Cassian and was making him kill Nesta. And Nesta ends up using her power to kill Bryolin before Cassian could hurt himself
Maybe I
or
was just
Nesta.
trying to flip forward to a sex scene. I remember
Maybe.
none of this.
So, quick sidebar
too.
about that. Cassian actually, Bryolin tells him to kill. She doesn't say kill Nesta. She just says kill. But her intent is definitely for him to kill Nesta. He actually tries to kill himself instead. And that's when Nesta absolutely loses it because he's about to die. So, I just want to point out that Cassian's love for Nesta and their mating bond allows him to overcome the power of the crown, which is a dread trove power, but also we now know that that is Asteri power,
Right.
which
Ooh,
is the
yeah.
most powerful of all the powers of anything we've seen in any of these books. So Cassian's love for Nesta was stronger than Asteri.
That doesn't make him less hot. I gotta say.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, that's pretty amazing. And also the mate bonds, like how that's a pretty powerful thing, right?
Well, and that ties
So-
in with through love all is possible.
Right. So just a sidebar, that doesn't really have anything to do with Enalius. I just wanted to throw that out there because Cassian is hot. So, so anyway, so I'm going back to Vesperus here in Crescent City, House of Flame and Shadow. So when Vesperus mentions Enalius, she tells us that the truth teller dagger belonged to him. She clocks that as Azrael has it and says that that belonged to Enalius and is like, where did you get that? Did you get that from him? So that reveal that the dagger belonged to Enalius tells us not only who the dagger belonged to, that also tells us that Enalius was a friend of Theon, the first High King, because he had the dagger because it was his friend's, and he took it when his friend died. So
Okay.
when Selene tells us
So
about...
was Theon on the mountain then with him?
I don't know. That I don't know. But when Selene tells us about Theon making his star sword and he made it with the cauldron, there were two unidentified figures in that scene as well.
Right. That was
And
one of my questions.
And Selene just was like, there were other people there too. And I just wonder if Enalius is one of those
Yeah.
people and perhaps Truth Teller was also made in the cauldron.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Because, well, I'm going to get to that in a second. So I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. So Vesperus also tells us that the Asteri created the Illyrians. Did you guys catch that?
I did.
Yeah. So she
missed
says, she calls Azrael basically a foot soldier and says that the Asteri created you from night and pain. So in previous books, other characters have talked about, well, what is Illyrian? Like, what does that mean? And it's always been kind of this weird, like, nebulous, vague mystery. Well, they were created by the Asteri to be soldiers for the Asteri. That's where they came from.
Wow.
The joke's on them, motherfucker.
Right?
I know.
So it seems our beloved Illyrians are a creation of the Asteri, made to be their soldiers, their protectors, their weapons, and have continued that sense of purpose through the history of the Night Court as soldiers for the different High Lords. Which I think is really interesting. Vesperus also says that Truth Teller has some kind of power that Azrael does not know about and or does not understand.
I caught that too.
Yeah, I caught
I
that
was
one.
like,
Yeah.
so how are we misusing this sword?
Right. Or like not just using it to its potential or whatever, which is why I question if Enalius is one of the unidentified people when Theon made his
Right.
sword. I wonder if the dagger came from the cauldron. Like, where did that power come from? Was it made by the Asteri? Was it
Right.
made by the cauldron? Does Enalius have power that he somehow like imbued into his
Right.
own dagger? Like, that's just a lot of questions there. And we don't have answers answers to that as of right now. So that's just a mystery that maybe we'll never find out. So this also raises the question of the nature of Enalius's powers. If the Illyrians were made by the Asteri, Illyrians in general, based on the other Court of Thorns and Roses books, we know that their power generally is a killing power. That's what Feyre is told in A Court of Mist and Fury. I think Azriel, I can't remember who, but I think it was Azriel or Rhys that told her that. And they used the siphons to basically like focus and concentrate that power to like a specific location or place, right? So I wonder, Azriel has some kind of additional power with his shadow singing and his shadow magic, right? So I wonder if Enalius also had some kind of other power like that was imbued into the Truth Teller dagger. And that's what she's referring to. Okay. But again, mystery, not totally sure. It is, like I mentioned before, it's possible that the dagger was simply made by the Asteri, because Vesperus says the Illyrians wanted to use the Asteri's weapons without understanding what they could actually do. You wanted to use our weapons, but you had no concept of what they could actually do. So I wonder if the dagger is one of those, right? Like you could make an argument for any of these possibilities based on what the book says, but there's not anything clear one way or the other. Either way, this dagger has powers Azriel is not tapping into. And Azriel seems to have some kind of connection to Enalius, because otherwise, why would the mother or the cauldron, or however you want to say it, why would she have brought the dagger into Azriel's life, into Azriel's possession, if there wasn't some kind of connection there, right? Like they're always talking about fate and like the mother does all these things. Like there's a connection there that we just don't fully understand. My prediction is that when the next ACOTAR book comes out, if it does focus more on Azriel,
I thought
like,
you're going to say if it ever does come out.
If it ever does. But if it does focus on Azriel, like people think that it's going to, I think that we're going to learn a lot about him while also learning a lot about his dagger and about Enalius. Like I
want to
think
know all about his dagger.
I'd love to know about his dagger.
I think it's all connected. So
Do you think
I
it
hope
has
that I'm right
special
about
powers,
that.
his dagger?
Do
you think it emits?
I mean, I think the fact that his wingspan is as big as a freaking cave, that's a power in and of itself.
Not cave, cavern.
Is that bigger?
Yeah.
A cavern's bigger than a cave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a cavern is like the opening in a cave.
Oh. That's what was my nickname in high school.
Just about to make that joke. Whitney the Cavern.
Anyway, Robbie doesn't listen to these episodes. It's fine. Also, nobody called me that in high school because I played Dance Dance Revolution for fun. So that was not happening for me. But anyway,
you know, it's
so we can cut all that out.
No, we can't. Not on the video. We can't. You know, it's my dream to have a Dance Dance Revolution machine in my basement, right? Like legit.
I used to be really good at it.
Whitney would be here every.
That's okay. We would be so fucking skinny.
I'm too old for it now.
No, Harper
I'd probably pee my pants.
Harper and I went and played at Rec Bar one day, and we left with our hair wet.
I mean,
it is a workout.
If you do it right, it's a workout.
If you get a perfect score like Harper and I did, you will leave sweaty.
Yeah. So lots of connections there. This little bit of information that Vesperus gives. I mean, the Illyrians are an Asteri creation.
Yeah.
Like some of these like demon creatures are. I mean, like that's kind of crazy. The Illyrians were created by the Asteri. The dagger belonged to this famed Enalius that Azriel has had in his possession. He was given it, I think, by Rhys's dad. Rhysand's dad ended up giving him that dagger. So just lots of mysteries about this weapon and why Azriel has it, right? Like, why did Fates give it to him?
Well, he doesn't have it anymore.
Well, that's true.
Bryce does.
She did take it, and he was sad about it, too.
Yes, he was.
It made me a little bit sad for him. But
I mean, he kind of told her he was going to kill her, so I would have taken it, too.
I know, right?
Yeah, you started to see that dark side of him.
They turned on her really quick.
Oh,
didn't they?
yeah.
Well, do you blame him? She was putting everything at risk.
100%, yeah.
Right.
I totally get it. But, well, let's talk about our favorite moments in these chapters.
On the bright side.
Let's bring it up a little bit.
Why don't you tell us yours first?
Oh, mine is Lydia's rescue plan. Like, just having that happen, right? Like I said, I think it was last week, I was like, I'm done with the dungeon. Like I can't do any more of the torture and the confinement. And then I was like, oh, good, this is happening now. Okay, great. That whole section played out in my reading experience. It played out like an action movie. Like it literally got my heart rate up. Like I felt tense. I could picture it all very clearly in my head, and it felt like it was fast paced. And I like in my brain, I'm like, go,
Keep running,
yes.
go.
And it was very exciting to read, which I really liked. It was good. It was my favorite part.
I'm going to go because it was my favorite part too.
Yeah.
Like seriously, how cool is Lydia in this section
It's
of
amazing.
the book? And she has spent years hiding her true motives and puts all of it on the line to save Ruhn and Hunt and Baxian, right? So she
But really, Ruhn.
Really, yeah. I was trying to be nice.
Yeah.
She kills her way out of the dungeons, gets the boys to the countryside, deters the dread wolves in her deer form.
Yeah.
Also, the guys can get to the depth charger, and then she literally leaps to her own death.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, Lydia? Don't die.
She has been giving everything she has to this cause, and she is continuing to do that, even through like revealing herself and saving Ruhn. Like it's sacrificing everything for this, hope for a better world.
Was yours the same, Mindy?
That was not my favorite moment or twist, but she is my chapter MVP for pretty much all those same reasons, and I'll expand a little bit later on that. But no, actually, like. I had a couple, but when Nesta kills Vespers with ataraxia, that was pretty satisfying.
I loved that too.
I was because you kept thinking it was going to happen. Like, oh, Nesta was going to do it. Oh no, she didn't. Oh, Bryce is going to do it now. No.
And I love that she like stabbed her in the face.
Like just basically she beheaded her. Right.
Well, and you know who definitely wasn't going to do it is Azrael.
I know. He was just like,
He's like, I'll just stand over
Bless
here.
his heart. Yeah, he was not a part of that at all.
Nope.
It was either going to be Bryce or Nesta.
Well, maybe he's just a true feminist because he's like, you got it.
You guys don't need. You don't need my help. I don't need to mansplain
If I need
this to you.
pull something out of the siphons, I can.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. But the other one was, I just really enjoyed the moment when Bryce and the Autumn King are like doing an answer for an answer game, and how Bryce is just so defiant of him, and she tricks him like several times into like asking questions and using his turn. Yeah. So she like
unintentionally
she gets way more
something.
information out of him than he gets out of her.
Yeah.
I just think that was.
She also uses his arrogance against him.
Yes.
She's pretty much like, oh, really? And he's like, well, yeah, let me tell you why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That actually leads right into my least favorite moment.
Oh, yeah?
Because it was every single scene with the Autumn King.
Yeah, he sucks. He fucking sucks.
Well, because, this is my second time reading the book, but I had completely forgotten that whole section even happens.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I really did. And so just like when I read the book the first time, she, creates this portal to go back to Midgard. And I'm like, yes, finally, she's going to be reunited with Hunt. Like, this is what I've been waiting for like 20, 30 chapters, whatever it is. And then she lands in the Autumn King's office or whatever. And I had forgotten that it happened. And so again, I was like devastated. And he's the worst.
He really is.
Like, he is the worst. It does not even cross his mind to do one single thing to help either one of his kids in any way, shape, or form. Like,
well, he totally like disses Ruhn too.
Oh, he's left him for dead.
Well, he deserves everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that Bryce was like, "You've left him in there for 5 days. Like, what's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
And then he's like, "What? Like, I'm gonna help him? No." Yeah. And then Bryce, he's not doing anything to help her. It makes me so furious. I hate him. He's the worst.
He's a douche.
Mine has some to do with the Autumn King now that I'm like looking at it. But so trigger warning. I think what really bothered me about this section of the book is there are a lot of mentions of abuse.
Yeah.
So we have Bryce being held against her will by the Autumn King. Bryce finds the burn cream in Ruhn's bedroom that he used to use after his father used fire magic on him as discipline. And then we have Pollux telling Lydia that he'll fuck the disrespect out of her and tells her like out of her bloody cunt, which is so gross and like so disrespectful. And so, we've talked about this before. Sarah J. Maas's books, like they're quick fantasy reads, and I think people think they're like light, but they deal with some really heavy stuff. So for me, I think it was just all of the abuse in this section.
Well, and Sarah J. Maas is good, in my opinion, about writing about heavy stuff like that without it feeling like a very special episode of Crescent City. You know what I mean? Like
Thursday after school special.
Yeah, like it's not super cheesy. It's not very heavy-handed. Like it works with the
She
characters
writes it
in the
how
world.
abuse happens.
Right.
And you know, we talked about this in ACOTAR. That's like season 1 if you want to go listen. But Tamlin is abusing Feyre, right? And she writes it from a victim's point of view, where these like little things happen over time, and you're like, it's not so bad. He didn't mean it. Like same thing. Like you could read this and be like, well, Bryce is there with her dad. Big deal. No, he is holding her against her will. He is cutting her off from the outside world.
Yeah.
She is not able to tell anyone she's safe. He, you know, she's lucky she's eating. I mean, really, when it comes down to it. And so I think Sarah J. Maas just does a really good job of helping maybe someone who's never been through something like this understand how people could like live with it for so long. Because even as the reader, you're like, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. And then when someone points it out, you're like, oh shit.
It's like you think this character is good or could be good, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, they're bad. Like with Tamlin, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's really good
to
at
all
that.
you girlies that got that name tattooed on you, just find a good cover-up artist. It's fine.
I mean,
don't get bookish tattoos unless the book's been out for like 100 years and the author's dead,
and the series is completed.
Right. Well, no, I would say even J.K. Rowling, people have her shit tattooed, and she like is the most hateful person on the planet.
I mean, I feel like if I got Tamlin tattooed on me, then I would have to go back and get like 'S tears and then like a jar tattooed on me,
or like Tamlin's my bitch,
or something like that. Tamlin's a fucking douche,
yeah.
Or mark it out and just put Rhysand.
That would be funny. What was your least favorite moment, Mindy?
Well, mine are a little different. I had a couple that just like honestly, as a reader, just pissed me off. Not not more like that was a traumatizing scene, but more like, first of all, oh my God, Ada's edging us with information about Hunt's dad. Like, I fucking want to know.
Adis could edge me anytime he wants. Bring it on, buddy. And not that phone call shit like he talks to, the real edging.
But he keeps saying, like, oh, that's a story for another time. I mean, he's done it, like, that's literally been my question, I think, twice already.
Well, he and Apollyon have been doing that with Bryce. Yes. We talked about that last time, I think. They're
so frustrating.
They're doing it to us as a reader, and they're doing it to Hunt as a character, too, right?
It's so frustrating to me.
Yeah.
But then the other one is that, like, I guess I thought after the end of the last one that maybe like Sigrid wasn't actually dead, and she was, and like now she's actually dead, and I'm like, what the fuck?
That chick doesn't have a head.
Why even bring her back into the story then? Like, it's almost like she didn't do anything to advance the plot. I know probably something's going to come up with Ethan, and like that's the whole impetus for him going and doing what he's doing. I'm sure it'll come back around, but at that moment it pissed me off. I was like, what? She's actually like, what? That's how I felt when Connor died.
We'll keep discussing Ethan's storyline.
Gotcha.
And probably feel
ad nauseum.
and probably not feel any better about it as the book goes on.
Great.
So just keep reading.
All right. So
what about biggest revelations?
Okay, speaking of the Autumn King, is he working against the Asteri with his little planetarium-like contraption device?
I don't know whose side he's on. He's on his side.
He's on his side, yeah.
But has he known that the Asteri are keeping everyone from maintaining their full power? Because he's so shocked when Bryce tells him that that Prithian, everyone's at full power. He's like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then he says, well, I've always kind of wanted to go there. But he obviously... The Asteri have kept him in the dark about things, which I think he thought they weren't, right? Because he's just that cocky. But you get the impression that he is really trying to reduce their power by what he's doing.
I see it less as trying to reduce their power and more as trying to increase his. You know what I mean?
But I think he knows to increase his, the Asteri.
Well, sure, yeah. No, I definitely
point though.
For sure.
He's not being selfless,
right?
He's not doing it for himself,
right? He's not trying to make the world a better place. He's just trying to give himself more power. But I do think he's definitely trying to get information about them and trying to set himself up to be able to make a move against them.
Right.
I don't know that he necessarily really like cares. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's a passion project, but I think he's just the type of person that's like, I am just going to gather all the information about everybody that I can, and when I have the opportunity to make a move against Sabine or the Prime or whoever, then I'll have the information that I need to do that.
They explain what he's looking at really well, but I'm picturing like fishing line hanging from the ceiling, and like here's Saturn,
like a mobile,
right? And then there's like some of those like sticky glow in the dark stars on the ceiling. That's what I'm picturing, just because he's such a piece of shit.
Yeah, I keep reading the description and keep being like, what?
I had to look it up. I had to look it up because I was reading on my Kindle, and you can press on it and find out more information about it.
I know.
And I was like, oh, that's what it is.
I just keep picturing an old like crystal lamp that my grandmother used to have
like
at her
Tiffany
house.
Lamp?
Yeah, well, probably a knockoff version, but like, it was little prisms of crystal, and it would make the rainbows of light on the wall. Like, that's what I keep picturing, and I'm like, I know that's not right, but that's what I picture in my head.
Kind of.
There we go.
I mean, maybe. Who knows? Speaking of crystals, was my biggest revelation, because when they're down there and she's in that crystal sarcophagus, at one point, and now I can't remember because that's just the way my brain works, somebody uses that crystal. I think it's Bryce uses the crystal to like siphon power, right? So when you look back at the Crystal Palace, that makes so much more sense. It's not just like, this is our pretty palace with crystal. It's actually
I didn't put that together.
Useful that they're siphoning power through that.
You are so smart.
They're crystal
Thank you.
thrones. Yeah, the Asteri's thrones are made of crystal.
Like that just hit me. I was like, okay.
I didn't think about that until you just said it.
Yeah.
Good job, Mindy.
I thought of something before either of you.
I love how really before Whitney. Let's be honest.
The best thing was I started that with like, am I remembering this right? I totally like second guess myself.
I always feel like that when I feel like I have something that's an exciting connection, and then I'm like, wait, am I dumb?
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Every time I feel like that.
I think that we are groundbreaking.
I do too. Yeah. We've come up with a lot of groundbreaking, I think, theories and whatnot.
This isn't part of my biggest revelation, but just to go off the crystal sarcophagus, flashback to earlier in this book when Bryce was playing music from her phone to Nesta and Azrael. She played a classical symphony thing from a ballet called The Glass Coffin.
Interesting.
And I mentioned it, and then was like, we'll talk about it later. And I just wonder, it seems like nobody but Thea knew that this Asteri was down here.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if the glass coffin was somehow like she asked somebody to make a piece of art or something that got moved over to Midgard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's not a coincidence, right? I think that's an interesting little tidbit there. But Vesperus is my biggest revelation, right? Her existence, first of all, but also the things that she told us, which, we already talked about the dagger and Azrael, the Illyrians and all that, but also Vesperus was the evening star. She was called the Evening Star, which I had always thought of the Dusk Court being named after Thea and Thea's power, but it was named after this Asteri and her power. So the Dusk Court power that Bryce has from Selene is at least kind of connected to that Asteri.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that also, because that was one of my questions too, because I remember when I did the Asteri and there was Hesperus, who is also called, they're basically interchangeable. One's a Greek and one's a Roman.
Yeah.
And even somebody, I think it was Bryce, asked about Hesperus, and she was like, no.
Right.
I am that one. Right. So, like, how are they related to each other? In what way are they related? But yeah.
Well, and I wonder too, the Asteri that are in Midgard, I'm assuming they know about this chick back in Prithian. And then I thought, oh, the Dusk Room, is that really there because it's history of another Asteri?
And they're trying to get back to her.
They're trying to get...
Maybe they're trying to save her.
Are they trying to get back to her? Do they remember that she's there? You know what I mean?
Do they want to rescue her?
Yeah, that was a big... I was thinking all of that Dusk stuff was all about Thea, but I think it's really all about Vesperus.
Who the fuck knows?
I know, right? Sarah J probably knows.
I don't know, though. She acts sort of indifferent to Regulus, though.
Yeah, she's
like, oh, well, I guess you're his bud, whatever.
Yeah, it kind of... The way that she talked about him made me feel like he was an underling.
Right.
back in her day, right?
Yeah.
And now he's moved up in the ranks, and
Yeah.
she's just like, ugh, I hate him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like
I
she's
feel
very.
like all of the Asteri's personality is like, ugh,
I hate him. Right.
Yeah.
What about?
Hold on, before you move on, I want to talk a little bit more about the caverns.
Oh, good. Because I was
right.
going to say, what about Deb's talking more about stuff?
Oh, well,
No,
great.
I
All right.
wasn't.
I'm so glad that you were going to say
That's
that.
just me saving myself.
Okay, so speaking of the caverns, did you all notice all of the Star Wars similarities in this chapter?
I didn't.
I
Actually,
didn't make a Star Wars
but I'm
connection.
not a huge Star Wars fan.
See,
Okay.
I am, so now I'm disappointed with myself.
I'm disappointed in you too. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so let me give you a few examples. First, both Princess Leia and Celine show up as a hologram type of vision to ask for help.
Yeah.
Next, Bryce can essentially use the Force to attract the Star Swords, just like the Jedis
Yeah.
do with their lightsabers.
That's true.
And she also has the power within herself to promote the greater good, which is a huge thing.
The power is within you.
The power is within you. There is intergalactic space travel. Both universes use droids for physical labor. And
yeah.
finally, the Asteri, much like Darth Vader, want to become the most powerful beings and achieve immortality, which is a
Yeah.
huge part of Star Wars. So
Yeah.
all of this got me wondering if Bryce is just actually a Jedi. And I'm really wondering if Sarah J. Maas is just a huge Star Wars fan.
I bet she is. Yeah.
Okay, so according to learnreligions.com, and yes, this is an actual website that teaches about religion, even ones from movies. So this website says that there are 33 traits that exemplify the Jedi path. So I'm not going to list all of them because that would be super duper boring.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. But I will link the article in the show notes. So let's start with the traits that Bryce does exude as a Jedi. Number 1, Jedi believe that there is a dark side, but will refuse to dwell on it. Number 2, certain Jedi are stronger with the Force than others. Number 3, Jedi must live in the present moment. Number 4, Jedi must trust their feelings or intuitions. And that goes into number 5. They must protect and defend the helpless, which we have seen Bryce do a million
Multiple
times.
yeah.
Jedi avoid acting on dark side emotions like fear, anger, aggression, and hate, which we never see Bryce make decisions around that.
Yeah.
Jedi believe that they need to bring balance to the Force within and not wait around for a chosen one to do it, which is the Asteri to a T, right?
Right.
Jedi are responsible for balancing their own minds so that their minds are clear, good, positive, wholesome, and stay on the right side. Jedi stay physically fit for many reasons. I think Bryce just likes to work out because Hunt will go down on her in there. But the Jedi believe in life after death. The Jedi believe in democracy, but usually don't trust politicians, which we see is a huge theme in this universe. Jedi believe in service to others and are selfless. And then this is the best one. Jedi have a keen sense of humor. Which there is a quote in this section of the book where she talks about how Vesperis's lips look like whatever, like that whore red.
Horse red that Danica said.
Yeah. And I laughed so hard because it's kind of the
Dick
serious
sucking lip.
Dick
DSL.
sucking lips.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there's several ways that Bryce really could improve on her Jedi-ness and maybe become a little closer with the Force. So there's some things that Jedi do that Bryce definitely does not. Jedi practice meditation to achieve a calm mind, which Bryce does not do that. Jedi practice awareness and are mindful of their thoughts. Don't really
not
see
so
that.
much.
Jedi have patience. Nope.
Yeah.
Jedi believe in destiny, which I don't really think Bryce believes in that. She believes she can create her own destiny,
Yeah, I
which I
definitely
actually
think
like better.
yeah.
Jedi are humble and believe that they can always work on improving themselves. I think Bryce thinks she's the best possible person she could be right now. And then Jedi can see the future through the Force. We haven't seen anything like that with Bryce, but
Yeah.
I really once it was really her getting the truth teller, how like it kind of came to her via the Force, that I was like, this is some Star Wars shit.
I mean, it is.
And
yeah.
I couldn't stop thinking about
Yeah.
it. There's
Yeah,
so many
that's funny.
similarities, especially between the Asteri and Darth Vader.
Oh, yeah.
I could do a whole deep dive just on that.
Yeah.
Right? On how
There
good
are.
to evil and all of that. Yeah.
That's so funny.
SJM, if you're a Star Wars fan, we want to know. Let us know. When we interview her someday, we're going to ask her that question.
Yeah. We'll need to start
That's
a list.
the number one question. First, before we start talking about any of your books, are you a Star Wars?
Yeah, do you like Star Wars?
That will be my nerdiest thing of the week. Let me tell you how I've compared all of your books to the Star Wars universe.
Found parallel characters for all of your characters as well. That's funny. Thank you for doing that, Deb.
Yeah, that was
I'm
cool.
disappointed in myself that I didn't see that the Force. Especially,
I love you less
like,
as a friend.
as you should.
Maybe we'll just watch Star Wars this weekend.
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice.
So let's talk about our favorite scene. Normally we talk about spicy scenes. There hasn't really been one. So what was your all's favorite scene?
Mine was the same as my favorite twist, and it's Lydia. Like the whole escaping and helping everyone survive thing.
I said that too, but I specifically really enjoy the car. Like once they get to the car and are driving through the city and trying to get to the coast, that whole section is the go.
It's funny because I almost put that as my least favorite, and this goes with your cocktail. Like Ruhn just fucking keeps sobbing, and I can't handle it. But it makes I know it's good tears.
It's relief,
but
know?
For him to cry, right, and
to show that sort of vulnerability,
right, and to almost
that's why I liked it. I think
sure, but I'm not a vulnerable person, so I'm like, oh my god, if I was crying in front of everyone like that, I know how bad it has to be.
Yeah,
right. It bothered me.
I thought it was really sweet, hearing his best friend's voices. I didn't remember that it was just hearing Declan's voice on the radio.
That was sweet, and
I had remembered that Flynn was waiting for them in the car. Not in a different car and just driving up hey, which is a lot funnier.
Yeah. Right.
But I think that's why I like it that moment so much, because it's just that relief of I thought I was gonna die, right? I did not think I would ever
see you again,
hear your voices. No, I was done.
Can we point out too in this whole section how Baxian knew nothing?
I know.
And
I had
he
forgotten
looks at
that.
Lydia and he's like, "What the fuck is happening?"
I had completely forgotten that Baxian did not know anything. I guess I assumed or just misremembered that when she helped with the harpy but he was passed out, I guess. I had completely missed that. So I kind of felt bad for him a little bit.
He was I'm feeling a little on the outside again.
He is literally the only one who has no idea what's going on.
Then he's like, you know what? I'm going to get up on this machine gun.
Yeah, he was there for it, right?
And he was. Literally the machine gun falls off and he's holding on to the back of the vehicle. I'm laughing so hard while I'm reading this. And I know we're not supposed to laugh, but it was a little bit of comedic relief.
It was, yeah. Some lighthearted moments. What was your favorite scene, Mindy?
Well, I actually sometimes I'll look at spicy scene and I'll think that my favorite sassy Bryce moment.
Oh yeah.
And so mine was when Bryce tells Vespris to get fucked. She's
I highlighted that too.
She's telling her stuff to do. She's like, well, get fucked.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Typical Bryce.
Her sass made me laugh a lot. Well, we talked a little bit about chapter MVPs. I had two. I picked Lydia and Nesta. I picked Lydia. I know, right? I probably pick Lydia every single week.
And Nesta.
And Nesta. That's right. Lydia for her, just the escape plan. And really, she just had the balls to do it, right? She made it happen. And I just think that's fantastic. And Nesta killed an Asteri. So, I mean, hey, the only person we've ever seen do that or heard of do that is the Apollyon, prince of hell.
Yeah.
Right? So that's pretty fantastic. They're just, both of these characters are complex. They are strong. They are misunderstood. And they're really vilified by other characters when they are actually badasses that save everyone.
Right.
And deserve to be made into goddesses. So
that's right.
Those are my MVPs.
Well, I had mentioned already that Lydia is also my MVP. I mean, I'm just damn, take the hawk out. Shooting him. She doesn't just kill him. She shoots him between the eyes. She's like, I'm not playing people.
Which shows a level of precision on her end of how deadly calm she can be, even when she is the most stressed out she's ever been.
Yeah.
I love it too when you this scene when a villain gets taken out and there's no big dramatic conversation about it or
it's just by
I love that. I like that a lot too.
But plus, she was when Hunt says something and she's like, "Those are my words exactly." Boom.
Yeah.
But then also she rescues everyone, like you've been talking about. Also, she, forges this bond with Erithis and makes her basically burn everything on her command.
Yeah.
So Erithis burns everything, and because Lydia said do it, right?
Yeah.
That's some leadership shit right there.
Yeah.
And then she causes the whole distraction to get Ruhn and Baxi into the depth charger by turning into the deer. And then she fucking sacrifices herself off the cliff, dying on her own terms.
I know. Yeah. Like knowing that being taken back by Pollux to the Asteri and
just gonna
Pollux
be worse.
would
Are
be
you pissed
worse
off
than
that they
death.
still shot her through the chest, though? I'm pretty pissed off about that.
I'm like, fuck
I'm like,
that
they still
shit.
got her.
Yeah.
She wasn't dead yet, and they got her. Yeah. My chapter MVP was the cauldron.
Oh.
For a couple of reasons. We learned a lot about the cauldron
did,
in this section. So, number one, it can make objects, which we already knew. It made Nesta and Elaine. But it helped the Asteri make the Dread Trove. So we found out that it created that. And then we also found out that it is a kill switch for Prythian.
Yeah.
If you destroy the cauldron, it destroys the planet. So thank God in Aqua War that they didn't destroy it.
Right.
Because I know that was one of their big goals. And they said they have a kill switch on every planet.
Yep.
Which
makes you wonder,
terrifying.
where's the kill switch on?
In Midgard.
Midgard. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's one interesting thing about the cauldron. We learned this from Selene, too, that the Asteri manipulated the cauldron with their own power and made it something like, what is it? Not just a tool of creation, but also
It
destruction.
makes you wonder if they killed the mother.
It's interesting to me that the cauldron could be like tainted like that.
Yeah.
But
Well, all good power can be.
well, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
That was deep, Deb.
Bless.
What about your favorite secondary character?
What was yours, Whit?
Mine was all 4 of the sprites.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah. So you talked about, how did you say Erithus? Erithus. She blew up the spine, which was the distraction, as you said, for the rescue. But it also was a tactical, logistical blow to the Asteri, right? It was supposed to be helpful for the rebellion. But also the other 3 sprites, I didn't write down their names. They set the meat market on fire after all the bullcrap the Viper
But they
Queen-
were just like, they're like, yeah, we set it on
They
fire.
just did
Like,
it. Yeah.
They're like, go. We just set that on fire.
Yeah, we got to get out of here. That made me laugh.
Speaking of Legally Blonde, I wrote, they were like Elle Woods, and they were like, what? Like, it's hard?
Yeah. I'm taking the dog, dumbass. Yeah, I love that they did that just on their own. They were like, no, this was crappy what you did to Ethan, and we're going to blow up your stuff.
Yeah.
But they feel like little grandmas were like, well, you deserve this.
Yeah,
Now they
they
have
do.
to burn down your meat market.
Yeah.
They've got like candies in their pocket and shit.
The Werther's original.
Yeah. Well, and I want
Butterscotches.
to point out, too, they really have become some of the bravest characters in the SJM universe, even though in this universe, they're the lowest type of creature.
Yep.
Right.
So I have to give a shout out to my girl, Lehaba, because
Yeah.
she's also a very strong sprite that saved Bryce by sacrificing herself in the first book in the series.
Yeah.
And I actually came across a theory that I'm going to link in the show notes that Lehaba is actually the sentient spirit in the House of Wind in Prythian. And there's a lot to back that up. So I'm going to link it in the show notes so everybody can go read it. I didn't want to get too deep into it. But
I'm just going to say, yeah, that's what that is.
I want to think that she helped Nesta become stronger. And she's like, bitch, you're better than this.
She totally would.
Yeah,
And
she would.
She absolutely would read smutty
I was going to
novels.
say, she would give everyone smart books.
She would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
I'm going to have to read or
I know.
watch or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm
That's-
interested to read that too.
That's fantastic. Did you guys have any favorite quotes?
Always.
I only had 2 this time.
I only have 2 this time too.
I'm not a rule breaker. I have one.
Well, then you get to go first.
Okay. Mine was, let's just say that I know a female that could wipe your sorry ass from existence without even breaking a sweat. And that's Bryce to the Autumn King speaking about Nesta.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot
Yes.
too.
And one of mine was from Bryce to the Autumn King too, when she says, "You might want to reconsider before packing your bags. They don't take kindly to assholes."
Yeah.
And then his response is, "Your journey hasn't impacted that smart mouth of yours, I see."
Yeah.
Like,
I enjoyed
nice,
that.
nice. And then my other one was when Vesperus says to Az, "You don't know how to use it, do you?" about Truth Teller. And he responds, "Pretty sure this ends the one that'll go through your gut."
Yeah,
I love
like
sassy
that one too.
Azrael.
That was
And
in my top
according
5.
to SJM, he does know how to use it.
Yeah, well,
I can't wait.
All of them. Yeah, I had 2. They're both from kind of secondary characters. First, when Jezebel meets with Ethan in House of Flame and Shadow, and she says, "I can assume things are not going well for you." That made me laugh. It's like, I mean, to put it mildly,
Yes.
you are
He's
correct.
in the House of Flame and Shadow.
Right, yeah, like,
I mean,
it's been
pretty
rough.
much all the vampires are looking at him like he is a snack.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, he
then
is a snack.
Therian, when, bless him, Ruhn is like freaking out about Lydia and is like, help her, Therian says, always happy to provide the heroics. And I wrote
Well,
down,
that's good because you've not. In a while.
right, I wrote down, there's my sassy Mer.
I know,
right?
I was
Because you
like,
had said last time, I think, Deb, about like, where's the guy that said legs? And I
Yeah,
was like,
right.
that's him right
There he
there,
is,
right?
peeking
I loved
through.
that.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a loaded question. Do you guys have any questions?
So a lot of the questions I had, we've actually all had these questions during this episode. The one question I have is, what is the middle that Vesperus speaks of? She says it's where the unwanted go in Prithian.
I thought she was talking about the literal middle. That's what they call the space of land where the Weaver lived.
Oh, that's called the middle?
That's called the middle.
Oh, because she says she's like dreaming of it, right? So
Right.
I had forgotten that. I thought maybe it was like another plane or something.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it doesn't belong to any court, and it's where creatures can go and just like
Be
be
They're
who they
like
are without.
exiled to that
Basically,
area.
yeah.
What I find is interesting, though, is that Midgard is also the middle.
Oh, that's true.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Shit's getting deep on this
I know.
episode.
That's
I know.
true.
My other question is, what's going to happen to Lydia? Did she die?
I know.
We'll have to
I'm
keep
freaking
reading.
out about
I
that.
mean, it says her face is going to splatter on the water. They shot her through the chest.
Yeah.
Like,
She's falling from a cliff. However, what did they say how high it was? I
I
can't
mean,
remember.
so high her face was going to splatter on the
Well,
water.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the shot in the chest is a pretty.
Damning.
yeah,
That's a pretty
kind of like
rough
the nail
one.
in the coffin.
Yeah, that's a rough
so
one to
to
go
speak.
around. Mindy,
had-
what questions do you have?
So many questions.
Well,
you know, I always
Why don't
do.
you just pick a couple?
I want to hear them all.
Who are the bad guys here? The Autumn King, the Asteri,
Yeah.
Vesperus. There's so many forces.
Okay, I have to go back to my whole Star Wars thing because a big theme in Star Wars are, when are you the bad guy? Because there's a whole theme about, well, you also killed someone, but
Yeah.
you said you did it in the theme of good,
Right.
but you also killed somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was thinking, like, yeah, Bryce kills an archangel. She fucking vacuums him up, which is like
Yeah.
one of the least empathetic things you could do to
for sure.
someone, right?
Yeah.
But we don't think of her as the villain because she's doing like the greater good. So that's a great question,
Yeah.
Mindy.
Also, so they're talking about where the veil is thin and magic is stored.
Mm-hmm.
They bring up the bone quarter. So is Valaris also like the bone quarter? Because then she says,
You know what I wondered? I've wondered this the whole time about the thin points. Is that pool that Tamlin and Pharaoh were in the Spring Court, the Starlight
The Starlight
one?
pool,
Because
yeah.
it has never come up again what that is.
That's
And he
true.
tells her, don't go under the water. Remember that?
yeah, I just that got me thinking, like, where are the other? Because she shows up in Valaris, right? Like when Bryce falls into
She
their
shows up next to the river house,
Right, the estate.
okay.
which I mean is,
In
I guess,
Valaris,
technically
It's
in Valaris. But
yeah, so
I mean,
anyway, so I guess
I
mean
think
I'm-
she showed up where the truth teller was.
well, I think that's true.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense. But if that's where the veil is thin, and I don't know. Also, I'd love
Hold
to.
on. Knowing Rhysand, you know he built that shit there because of that and hasn't told anybody.
I don't think he knows about that.
Rhysand always acts like he doesn't know shit.
Well, I think there's a lot Vesperus and Celine shared that he literally doesn't know.
Yeah, true. Also, who informed the Autumn King that Bryce was on a different planet? And because he says he knows that she was.
Well, that's what I was
There.
saying earlier, that the Asteri, he feels like he's in the Asteri's back pocket, but then like he finds out that these Fae are at full power and they've not told him.
I don't think he actually knew. I think that he heavily suspected, based on all the research that he has done, he knows that there are other worlds out there. And based on the way the Asteri handled the situation, because remember they said like she's chosen to vacate Midgard.
Also,
like the
she
way they
fucking-
said it.
She
Right.
falls out of thin air in his house.
Well, yeah.
Like,
but
can you
before
imagine us
that,
sitting right here and then just one of our kids just falls out on the floor? I'd
Yeah.
be like, oh, you must have been on a different
I think
planet.
that he had an idea of what was going on, and then her appearing like that confirmed what he thought was going on.
I feel like I was thinking that too, and then I went and I thought I wrote it in my notes, but I did not. So anyway, I'll have to go back and look at that. But I feel like there was point where he said, and it made me think there was something else he said that made me think that, but I don't know. I guess really ultimately, like, what is he all about? What is he, what is his end game?
He is a mystery a little bit.
I also kind of wonder why Bryce, like, she kind of brushed it off. She's like, well, I guess I'll just tell him all about the Asteri now. Like, if it's fine to tell it now, why wasn't it fine to tell it earlier? I don't know. Maybe she doesn't trust him. She still doesn't trust him. Like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of a weird, didn't go along with her personality, and it was just like, oh, well, we've got to tell him somehow. So Bryce is just going to tell him.
I think, too, her telling the Autumn King everything the Asteri is doing is going to motivate him to help to preserve his own power.
Maybe she's trying to tip the scale, like, in her favor.
Yeah, because she knows she's going to need help.
And then the only other thing that confused me, so they're leaving when Ethan and all them are leaving the meat market after he kills Sigrid. The sprites say that the Viper Queen engineered everything and that they used Ethan, and he replies that he played right into her hands. So I'm still wondering, what exactly is the Viper Queen's gain here? Like, Sigrid dying helps her how? Because she can control Sabine? Or she's such an enigma to me. I still don't know what her end game is either.
I don't really know, but at this point, my assumption is that it has something to do with the Viper Queen's relationship or lack thereof with Sabine. Because, was it Bryce? Somebody had a conversation with the Viper Queen about, no, it was Ethan, because they had attacked Sabine at the beginning of this book. They talked about whether or not she was dead, and she was very cagey about, like, did you wish that I killed her? You know what I mean? And so I feel like she's doing what the Autumn King is doing, right? Gathering information about all of these people so that if and when she needs to make a move against somebody, she has the information to do it. So if she has information about the Fendir heir getting killed, that's something that would be helpful in her relationship to Sabine. You know what I mean?
True.
That's what my assumption is.
That makes sense. I mean, I know she's only out for herself.
We don't even know, like, what she is. Like, what manner of, like, creature, fae, whatever. We don't know what she even is.
I'd like to know more about her.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe she's a serial killer that gets off on watching people fight and die. I don't know.
Whitney's like, I'll watch that documentary.
Yeah, there we go.
Did you have any questions, Whit?
I actually only had one question, and it's not even really like a question. I just feel like, well, okay. So Ethan, when he does not go onto Depth Charger and is like, I need to go try to fix this situation with Sigrid, he thinks to himself that Therion might be able to walk away from the consequences of his actions, but I can't. And I'm not willing to do that.
Think that.
And I said, isn't that a very unfair comment to make? Because Therion has made stupid decisions just like Ethan has. Yes. But isn't the whole scenario with the Viper Queen consequences for his actions?
From Therion's actions?
Yeah.
He did face those consequences. And also, was it not Ethan's entire passion project to free Therion and get him away
from the consequences
of his actions? And so once Ethan was successful with that, then he like makes this really snarky, judgmental comment about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just was like, wait a second, that's really crappy that you said that. Like, that's not fair. Is that even a fair statement? And I say no. So that's what it's not really a question, but I was just kind of like, I don't understand why that was even in there. I don't get that thought process. I didn't think that was fair. So Sarah J, I did not like that. But anyway, is there anything else you guys wanted to make sure that we talked about? We had a lot of info.
We talked a lot.
I will say I would, for something I was looking forward to, I also I would like for Therion to still stop being a whiny ass. But but we do see the glimmer of that. But I was a little disappointed that she's not on Prythian anymore. I really wanted more time on Prythian.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I wrote, when I reviewed this book, when I read it the first time, my thing that knocked off a star, and I remember Whitney telling me, I don't know if I should rate it 4 or 5 stars, and then I read it and understood why. I felt like making it a multiverse was it moved the plot not to create a multiverse.
Yes.
Like it was for very different reasons. And so I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
That's all we get?
I'm hopeful that in the future there's going to be more crossover now that has started in this book.
Right.
But I felt the exact same way when she went back to Midgard. I was like,
wait, what?
Where's Feyre? Where's Cassian? Where's Rhys?
Yeah, I was very disappointed.
Yeah, I wanted way, way, way more. I wanted them to get out of the tunnels and go back to the river house.
I wanted them to go and help her.
Well, yeah, me too. Yeah.
Right. But I think Nesta and Azriel are so freaked out about what she could possibly bring back. It's
sure. And I get that.
It's not in their mindset to help her. But like at the same time, that would have been really cool for them to all go back with her. And like, we're going to stop people from coming to our world.
Yeah.
You're not going to do this, actually.
Yeah. No, I was disappointed by that too.
Yeah.
But,
Boo.
well, I think that's it.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it for this episode. Next week, we will have an Elise Kova author interview to listen to. So make sure that you listen to that. And then the week after that, we'll be back with our continuation of Crescent City 3, House of Flame and Shadow, discussing chapters 36 through 44.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Like what you heard in this episode? Follow Our Nerdiest Thing on Instagram at instagram.com/Our Nerdiest Thing or Facebook at facebook.com/Our Nerdiest Thing. We love hearing from fellow nerds. Email us at ournerdiestthing@gmail.com.